This is, I'm going to present a work that is basically two papers. One is published, one is still under submission. And in both of the papers, my co-author is Simone Righi, who is at the University of Venice in Italy. And the first paper is, the first author is Shearson de Poder, who is from the University College London. So but the topic is cooperation. And cooperation is, I think it's the best example why is it so important is global warming. What we experience nowadays is that the greenhouse gas emission, including carbon dioxide emission, is really a lot compared to the historical times. And this is really creating a large problem for global climate. And then you can see it here that there are countries are responsible for this, of course, to a different extent, depending on their industrialization. But it's also important to see that, of course, to put it in a different context, that of course, some countries are larger than the others. So then if you look at these emissions per capita, then it's a bit different, and some countries are more can be blamed for this. But it's what we observe is actually that this problem is now realized. So I don't want to downgrade the problem, but it's very important that it has been realized, and then now there is a global discussion how to solve this, and all countries need to cooperate for solving the problem. And that's the first attempt was the Kyoto Protocol that was signed and ratified by many countries. The green ones signed and ratified it, and also some of the other countries had some attempts to keep this. And but it's of course signature is not really an indication of not probably the good measurement of cooperation. So if you look at the success since then compared to the Kyoto what is promised by the countries, some countries actually kept the promises, including Russia, and other countries didn't keep the promises. So it's actually this. Not the signature what is important, but probably more important is that how much of the CO2 emission is decreased. And of course, this is really remained a problem because the Kyoto Protocol seems to be inefficient, and there's also a lot of countries didn't really align with this. So then there was a Doha Amendment, and that was also ratified by more countries. And then recently the Paris Agreement, which has taken place in this year, February, and you can see that the number of green countries now is really almost everyone. So basically, there is hope. So that there is, it seems that there might be a global scale cooperation that all countries would like to contribute to the solution of this problem. And this is very important, and I think it's just of course probably will not be enough, but it's very good that we observe this kind of cooperation. And this is the message actually that we are as humans are facing a lot of cooperation problems, and these problems are very difficult to solve. It took a lot of years to start even thinking about this and to trying to get the countries into the table, the negotiation table about greenhouse gas emissions. But this is also the same problems occur in organizations and in any kind of human social context that we need to cooperate. We have to work together. And actually, if you free ride on the effort of others, then you are better off. So it's actually, there is even a so-called prisoner's dilemma that is depicting this situation. This is now a two-person version of this. You can see that there are two options: cooperation or defection or defection. And if you cooperate, you get a reward. Both cooperate, then you get a reward of R, which is higher than the reward of punishment. But anything you do, so basically, it's always a better option to do defect, irrespective of what the other is doing. Because if you are defecting and the other one is cooperating, then you get a reward T, which is higher than the reward R. So basically, you are better off. If the other one is defecting, you get a reward P if you defect, and then you get just a reward S, which is smaller than the reward P if you cooperate. So also, if the other one is defecting, then you are better off by defection. So this is a dominant strategy, and if you have a dominant strategy, then it's everything happens. It's a best choice to take this dominant strategy, and the dominant strategy is not to cooperate. So that's why these kind of problems of cooperation, also in two-person prisoner's dilemma games, but also like n-person prisoner's dilemma games as the global greenhouse gas emission, it's always a dominant strategy to defect, not to cooperate, to free ride on the effort of others. And this creates a large problem because the outcome, the equilibrium outcome, in which everyone is receiving P, is worse off for everyone than the outcome that would be socially optimal. This is the cooperation by everyone. So we are really in a trap, and it's very difficult to solve this kind of problems. And what we observe actually is that in animal societies, very rarely they are able to solve these problems, and humans are relatively successful in solving these kind of problems. And there are multiple solutions. Of course, there are solutions that are also work for other species. One is the possibility of reciprocity, so that if you have the other one, then the other one is also going to help you. This is known for quite a while, that reciprocity can establish a solution to the problem of cooperation if the shadow of the future is long enough. So basically, there is a good chance that you are meeting again. Another solution is discovered by biologist Hamilton, is that if you are of the similar kin, basically that you are genetically related, then it's also in order to spread your genes or disseminate your genes, it's better off to help your kin. So basically, you are able to make sacrifices of your own to help the others, because that might actually be better for the genetic reasons. And it's actually this kind of argument can be extended, because that's with a very similar way as that if you have cooperative types and defector types, let's say that two different kinds of people in the population, and if you are meeting cooperator types using the Hamilton's rule, it's also likely that this kind of positive assertment can establish cooperation, and that is sustainable. So basically, just that the condition is that those that are of similar kind, so basically those that are cooperators, if they are interacting with other cooperators, then this kind of clusters are able to support the sustainable cooperation. Another possible solution is group selection or team competition, that is also discovered by some biologists, and but it's also related to certain other disciplines, and team games, for instance, by Gary Borstein were discovered this, and also social identity theories and social group categorization theories from social psychology are realizing this, that if teams are competing with each other, then the solution of cooperation within the team is if it is a kind of a comparison with outgroups, and it means that you are, for instance, winning in a competition against the outgroup, then it's easier to establish, and it's also easier to establish if it brings you some kind of social identity or group identity. So this is also a solution. Another solution is by so-called embedded play, so that if, for instance, these games are played in a spatial environment, so spatial games by Novak and May in the early 90s, it's very nice kaleidoscope worlds in which basically you can show that that again, because of the same reason that the cooperators are more likely to meet cooperators, spatially cooperation can be sustained in a certain environment. It also can be generalized to different contexts. And for instance, to networks. So then doesn't really necessary spatial construction, but it's also could be a network in which basically you are meeting more likely with your neighbors. And in this kind of conditions, there is again a certain kind of rule discovered by Otsuki and the co-authors, is that if the density is high enough, or basically the related, so like the costs of cooperation in relation to density should be a relation that is held basically. And so if the density is high enough, then there is less likely that cooperation is sustained, because then you have just like too many defectors entering your own network. But of course, on the other hand, it's also depends, of course, that how you calculate the payoff. So it's a little bit tricky here, because it's also if you are paid the average payoff, or if you are paid the total payoff, it matters a lot. So basically, it's also in there, but it's a wide literature. There's a lot of interest in this problem in physics, there are really great contributions. There is a review paper that we published in Philosophical Transactions very recently. So if you're interested in this, then there are some, you can find a lot of citations there. But I would not like to talk about this now, but about another solution, which is indirect reciprocity. So just like reciprocity, indirect reciprocity is just receiving back, or the expectation of receiving help back if you are helping others, but not necessarily from the same person. So so basically you are helping others, and you can expect help from somebody else. This is the logic, but of course this is that's not so straightforward to see that this can be sustainable. This is rational to follow such kind of norms, such kind of behavior, especially because there's sometimes it's not known that who is helping whom, and it's also not known who is worth of helping. So basically, there's a way out of this problem is image scoring. So basically, that if you are publicly know what is the image of others, what is the reputation of others, then this kind of logic can work. So it's not necessary that reciprocity comes from the same. So the help comes from the person that you have helped in the past, but can come also from others. Others who are able to observe the reputation of the individuals. So basically, this has been recognized by Manfred Milinski and the co-authors, and also tested experimentally that this logic can work. But of course, there are certain, as I said, there are certain problems with this logic. So basically, the first one is that we don't always know who are the cooperators. And it's also the other problem is that it's not necessary that we condemn the free riders, and we don't know who should be considered as a good person and who should be considered as a bad person. Of course, we can say that cooperators should be the good persons and defectors should be the bad persons, but this is not that easy, and I can tell you why. So this is these are called the first order norms. If you just look at who are the cooperators and they should be considered as good, and who are the defectors and they should be considered as bad. This is a first order norm, but there are second and third order norms that complicate the situation. And these were examined by two Japanese colleagues, Otsuki and Iwaza, in the Journal of Theoretical Biology, and a series of publications. This was the first one. And they find that if you consider not just first order norms, but also second order norms and third order norms, then there are, of course, many different norms are possible. And not all norms can establish cooperation, but there are some norms that are able to establish cooperation. So for instance, just to think of second order norms and third order norms is the best to think of okay, you meet a cooperator, it's good. You meet a defector, then you assign a bad reputation for that person. But what if you meet a cooperator who didn't cooperate against the cooperator? So this is certainly bad. If you meet a defector who didn't cooperate against the cooperator, this is also bad. But let's say a cooperator meets a defector. Is it good behavior if the cooperator cooperated? You can consider this is good because you can be nice to everyone. But if it also can be considered bad because you didn't punish that person who didn't cooperate before. So basically, that's also the second order norm can also justify punishment of those who are defectors, who are bad guys. So basically, if you are a good guy and you meet a bad guy and you do not want to cooperate with that person, that can also be considered as good behavior. So basically, social norms that consider this kind of second order and third order norms can be much more complex, and there's no clear judgment in the society what should be considered as good and what should be considered as bad. So for this reason, it's good to investigate all these norms and to find out what are the norms that are basically the good norms in the sense that they are able to sustain cooperation. So many different social norms are possible, and those that are able to sustain large-scale cooperation as just very few. So these few are the so-called leading 8 norms that called by Otsuki and Iwaza. So let's consider this summary table here. These are just the norms are now trying to formulate them into algorithmic language and giving just ones and zeros and C's and D's. So basically, the all norms have 2 major elements. One is who should be considered as good and who should be considered as bad. And the other element is what to do. Shall I cooperate or shall I defect against that person? So basically, the reputational update that about the assignment of reputations is in the first 8 columns, and the conditional action that what should I do? Shall I cooperate or shall I defect? Is in the last 4 columns. So basically, for instance, it just consider the third column here. So basically, this is you can see that the norms, these 8 norms that are listed here, these are the leading 8 norms, are not agreeing on what to do in this situation. This is the situation when you have to assign reputation to individuals with a good reputation. So basically, this is 1 here, who cooperated, so this is C, against an individual with a bad reputation. This is 0 here. So this is the notation here that we use, that what kind of reputation you assign to in this kind of situation. And you see that the first norm is assigning a good reputation in this behavior. The second norm is assigning a bad reputation for this person. So they disagree on what to do in this situation, but there are certain situations in which they all agree. So let's have a closer look here. So basically, this is the first 8 columns is the reputation update, and the last 4 columns are the behavior strategy updates. So there are certain columns in which all the leading 8 norms have the same judgment or same assignment of reputations. Also for regarding behavior. For instance, if you are a good person, you meet a bad person, you meet a good person, then you should cooperate. So this is very easy. And also, if you are a good person and you meet a bad person, you should defect. If you are a bad person and you meet a good person, then you should cooperate. So these all leading 8 norms actually agree on this, but they do not agree on what to do if you are a bad person and you meet a bad opponent, whether you should defect or cooperate. And the same for reputational assignment. There are certain columns in which they agree, and there are certain columns in which there are differences. So what are the characteristics actually that are common in these norms? Because these are the norms that have been shown considering global evolution and global assignment of reputations to be able to sustain cooperation by Otsuki and Iwaza. So these characteristics are very important when we are searching for what are the good aspects of social norms. So for instance, the first one is the maintenance of cooperation here. So and the second one is basically that just like if everything is fine, everyone is good, just cooperate. The second characteristics is identification of defectors. So like what is here is that if there is a defector and then just you assign bad reputation who refuse to cooperate with an opponent of good reputation. So basically the opponent has a good reputation that is here, and still the person defected. So this is bad. So you assign bad reputation for these persons who refuse to cooperate with an opponent of good reputation. The third one is justified punishment. So this is also universal in these norms, that you assign good reputation for justified punishment if it is done by good players. So the player is good, the opponent is bad, the player decided to defect. This is good behavior. So this is agreed upon all the leading 8 norms. And also it includes some forgiveness here. So basically, if the opponent is of good reputation, the focal person was of bad reputation, but cooperated against that person who had a good reputation, that's good behavior. It's basically that person is forgiven for what that person did before, because that person had a bad reputation before. So but of course there are differences between these leading 8 norms that are highlighted, the key differences with color in this table. So we know that these are the leading 8 norms if we consider global populations, globally available reputations, well-mixed populations that everyone is meeting everyone, and the global strategy update. But we know that actually the interlogic of indirect reciprocity is just not about global populations, in the sense that we should not have this assumption that everyone knows everyone and everyone is able to judge others based on past behavior. Any kind of interaction took place in the past. So what we do here is we relax these assumptions. We assume local reputation and also local evolution. So these are 2 main modifications to the Otsuka-Iwaza framework, in which we first look at both. So we compare the results with the original results. But the local reputation is something that you can only know the reputation by others from the neighbors of that person. So if there is a network interaction, then basically there's some certain likelihood that the neighbors are able to judge the person. It's also not necessarily 1. So we express this with a parameter. But this is the only way that that reputation is known. So that this person here is not immediately knowing the reputation of A. And the same with the evolution. So it's also a bit strange to assume that you can learn, you can calculate immediately the global average of performance of strategies, and then you just adopt the best strategy. So I think it's more realistic in humans considering a local strategy update in which you learn the strategy from the neighbors. So basically, you look at the neighborhood, how they perform, you can judge what are the strategies of your neighbors, and you just select the strategy that is best performing in your neighborhood and not global. So what we do here, because this is a relatively complex problem, is we do simulations. So we set up a network, and we actually vary what kind of network we use. It is a static network, so there are no changes in the network. It's a single component network with everyone is having at least 2 ties. So these are restrictions. But otherwise, we try with this with the random graphs. We try with this with the regular graphs like lattices. We try with this scale-free networks, and also Duncan Watts type of small world networks. So, and we vary the repetition and evolution rules if it is a norm update, and then also the strategy update globally and locally. And we examine the leading 8 norms. So this is our aim. So we do not do an extensive search, again, just like Otsuki and Iwaza did, that trying out all possible norms, but just we focus on the leading 8. And we check their performance against the OD strategy, which is the defection strategy. And the defection strategy is is because it is a kind of a dominant strategy. It's performing better if you are considering just like a 1-by-1 interaction. So that's why also in the original papers by Otsuki and Iwaza, this was the intruder. So this was they checked the resilience of the leading 8 norms against all these strategies. What we have as a dynamic, so basically we have a random matching. Individuals play a prisoner's dilemma, at least one, but they can also play with more repetitions assigned, and then they update to a better social norm with a certain probability, and this is run until convergence or till a maximum simulation time, which is long enough reached. So what we observe actually is first main result is that these leading 8 strategies are also successful to sustain cooperation, considering local reputation and also local evolution. So this is this result that the leading 8 is performing very well against and basically against intruders of defectors is valid also considering local reputation and local evolution. Of course, there is it depends on the certain parameters, how good is this performance is. So one important parameter, and that's also of course relevant for global reputation and global evolution, similarly relevant actually, is what you can observe here on the left, is the probability of strategy update. So if you are very quickly learning what is better strategy in your neighborhood and globally, then you adopt to OD. So this is bad actually. So you should not be very good in learning what is the best strategy. If you are very good in learning what is the best strategy, then cooperation collapses, because the best strategy is defection. So that's why there is a parameter range in which the overall cooperation collapses. But if this is too slow, then it's better. So basically, if the strategy update is slow, then cooperation is sustained under all leading 8 type of norms. And then you can observe that in the middle range there is the group type of group 3 type of leading 8 norms that you could see in the bottom are performing the best, and the type 2 norms that were in the middle are performing the worst. And also another key parameter is reputation broadcast. So basically how clean the information that you learn as a neighbor from about the reputation of your neighbor. So that's of course relevant for local reputation. And what you can see is that the type 2 strategies that are S3, S4, S5, and S6 are unable to sustain cooperation in the critical range of this parameter. So of course, if this parameter is low, none of the leading 8 is able to do that. But some, so the type 2 strategies are performing not that good in the critical range. So that what we observe also with regard to observation error is that the type 3 norms are performing the best, and also with regard to mutation rate. So this is a mutation rate, and you can still see that there is a very high cooperation rate for all conditions. But mutation we understood as just introducing one mutant per round, one mutant of OD player, which is not much. So that explains why you still see very high rate of cooperations also with the mutation rate of 1. So it's just like one individual. That's one mutant. And of course, it's with the population size 200, and then you can also, it depends on the population size, what are these exact numbers here, but the difference that you observe between type 3 strategies and the type 2 strategies is always significant. It's also a significant difference with regard to observation error, as that the type 3 strategies are performing better. And also resilient, cooperation becomes resilient to observation error to a larger extent with type 3 strategies. And also the one way is to introduce mutants, and as this is just basically what you see on the right is a continuation of the previous figure, that there are more mutants introduced per period, more than one. But another way to introduce or investigate the resilience of these leading 8 strategies is to increase the share of initial share of all these strategies from 0 to more in the initial population. So that's of course cannot go till 1, because then there is no way to establish cooperation. But it seems that type 3 strategies are resilient to a very large proportion of all these strategies present in the initial population. This is really remarkable. So just as a general conclusion, what we find is if we consider local reputation and local evolution, then the type 3 strategies that are on the bottom 2 rows of this table are the best performer norms. So what are the characteristics of these norms? These norms are of course similar to the other 6 norms that are also successful to a large extent to sustain cooperation, but they're similar to these norms in the most aspects. They are different with regard to this column. They are similar to the type 2 strategies. So this is not really the distinction that is important. But the distinction that seems to be more important is that simply they are cruel. They are cruel to, they do not reward action with good reputation after the meeting of individuals with both of them having bad reputation. So this is they cannot really gain back their reputation in these kind of situations. So this is in a sense that while this is also a little bit about forgiving, but forgiving if you meet with a good person, but there's no forgiving if you meet with a bad person. Anything you do is just you remain of a bad reputation. This is the characteristic that seems to be relevant and makes the success of this type of strategies the highest of all. So this has been published in scientific reports, and there's some experimental evidence that supports this. But there's experimental evidence what we did in a laboratory with students. They play this kind of games is much more messy. So it's basically that what we can conclude from these experiments is that the first order norms are very clear, but it's not so evident what we should conclude from these experiments. So I think it's a better first to investigate more simulations to relax some further assumptions that are present in this model. One of these assumptions is actually that the construction of reputations is relatively straightforward in these models, but in reality it's not necessarily so straightforward. For instance, it's not necessarily just black and white, so not good and bad, but it's also not necessarily that you can just automatically can receive the reputation of your neighbors and nobody else. So what we have in human societies is gossip. Gossip is an exchange of information, basically spread of information about others who are not present, and it seems to be very important for the spreading of reputations. And it's this gossiping can be the mechanism then that can establish the spreading of information, the spreading of relevant information about others. And but if it is so easy to spread gossip actually because it has no cost, then you can also imagine that this is not necessarily sincere. So that's it's also sometimes misinterpreted, because that if you observe that somebody is defecting, then you probably do not know that the opponent was a defector. So it should be considered as justified punishment. So you might not have the full information when you gossip about others. So there might be problems, and these are kind of problems that are typical, that can be translated to algorithmic language as observation error or diffusion errors. And what we do here is basically that emphasize that key elements of this spreading of reputation of others in gossip is it should be more than just the reputation itself, because if it is just a reputation, then you run into these errors, and also you cannot really calculate what the other is expected to do. And also actually it's sometimes might be very important what the others think of yourself. So it's also the dependent. So it's like the reaction of the others might be conditional on your behavior. So that's why it's very important to think what kind of perspective they are taking, what kind of strategies they have, and what kind of responses that you can expect from them if you meet them. So for instance, it's a very important information for yourself as well, that what is your own reputation. So that's what we would like to emphasize, that if you are just gossiping about the reputation of others, then you don't have this element. So that basically gossip should have also the information of this kind of social mind reading, that you take the perspective of others, and also this kind of social mirroring, that you also try to find out what is your own reputation. And we build this into this extension of the model, and also we relax the assumption that reputations are binary. So basically reputations we initialize as on an interval scale between 0 and 100, 100 being the best. And the conditional strategies accordingly is much more complex. They basically just we do not want to introduce complexity to such a large extent, so we just have a threshold condition that each individual is just like looking at the other's reputation, and they are tolerating a certain reputation level, and above that level, so if you have a good reputation, then it triggers cooperation. We complicate this a little bit, because then we also take into account this perspective taking, and also the social mirroring, in the sense that this is the basic setup, but we introduce this as in the next step as a conditional part of the conditional strategies. As just for instance, if you consider that your reputation is very low, then even if the reputation is very high of the opponent, then you probably will not cooperate, because then the other person certainly will not cooperate with you. So it makes no sense to have that person. So that's this is a strategy that is taking into account your own reputation, what you learn via gossip that is formed by the opponent. So what we do is random matching again, and the reputations we are updated after play. We introduce gossip just between neighbors, and then you learn these from your neighbors, what the others might have. And of course, it's the extent of gossip is a very important parameter here, how much gossip we allow. And the reputations are updated. And then again, there is an interaction, and you use this kind of updated conditional strategies in these interactions. So what we manipulate is what is exactly passed on gossip. So basically, if it is just reputation, or it is just the conditional threshold of the other one. So basically, you have some information about the strategy of the opponent, and also it might include the self-image that you have in the eyes of the opponent. And what we manipulate is again is the frequency of gossip, which is again emphasizing in advance that we expect it to be very important, and also the memory that you have. So basically, you might, it's also a restriction or a kind of strange assumption in the original model, is that you are able to memorize all reputations of others, but what we allow here is some forgetting. Which is, of course, creating more problems for cooperation. And also we vary the gossip partner and target selection. So like whom do you gossip with, and about whom do you gossip, and these interactions. But we see that actually this gossip partner and gossip target choice doesn't seem to be relevant. So the all results are what I show you are robust to gossip partner selection and gossip a target selection. What makes a difference? Actually, it seems that if you just gossip about reputation of others, it's clearly not sufficient. It's not sustaining cooperation in this world in which there is a continuous scale reputation. It's actually in this world it's more difficult to sustain cooperation than in the binary world. So that's what we observe is there is cooperation is disappearing if gossip is just about reputations. What we observe is that gossip must contain perspective taking. So basically that social mind reading element about the strategies of the others. So if you have some knowledge of the strategies of others, then you can get a better response or almost like a best response strategies. So that's clearly helps, and that is very good for cooperation, because then it's also learning these conditional responses it's better to it helps to separate the cooperators from the defectors, and it's better, and it actually helps to proliferate cooperation in the population. And the other thing that is matter is actually that what you learn in this kind of gossip is that you learn how strict or how tolerant the opponent is. So basically, that if the opponent is very tolerant, then you behave differently. And what we observe, and I'm almost at the end, is that this result is robust. So this seems to be the important part of gossip that increases cooperation, is that you are able to find out what the strategy of the other one is, and it's not surprising that this works under most parameter conditions, and some parameters are obviously relevant. For instance, memory. If you have more memory, then you have more cooperations under any conditions, and also gossip frequency. If you gossip more, then you have more perfect knowledge. Therefore, there is more cooperation. So this is not that surprising. But what you observe is that any condition, for instance, by varying the relative amount of gossip, still what matters is the passing on information about the strategy. So what we notate here with the CZ is that is very relevant also if information is ages, and it's you can see that it's also a high cooperation for these conditions from the beginning, and for any kind of relative amount of gossip, but also with other conditions it can be established, just it takes more gossip to be established. So just to summarize, so basically public reputation systems are difficult to, of course, they can sustain cooperation if information is valid and globally available, but in most situations actually we do not have that. So we have to learn in informal discussions the reputation of others This is key to indirect reciprocity-based cooperation. So a reputation and indirect reciprocity can work under certain conditions. If it includes gossip that is not just a simple gossip, but perspective taking is included. And it's very important to consider that that the norms that are followed in the society are helping basically cooperation. So that just like the translating the reputational information into right behavior. So these are the two main conditions, that the spreading of information, spreading of reputational information in gossip should be extensive, basically, just like not just like the reputational score, but also what the expected strategy of the other one is. And also from the first paper, it's very important is to have the right reactions, right assignment of reputation, and right conditional response to the reputation of others. So that's what I wanted to say, and thanks again for your attention, and I'm